With so many gimbals out in the market, it's hard to choose one. So today we're going to be putting 3 of the best gimbals head to head to see who comes out on top. While these companies did send me out these gimbals for free, none of them have paid me and it's not sponsored by any of them. But it is sponsored by Skillshare. The 3 gimbals we'll be comparing today are the Ronin-S from DJI, the Moza Air 2, and the Crane 3 Lab from Zhiyun. The DJI Ronin-S comes in at 1.86 kilograms, the Moza Air 2 comes in at 1.6 kilograms, and the Crane 3 comes in 1.8 kilograms. So the Moza Air 2 will take that category as the lightest gimbal. Next we have the battery type. The Moza Air 2 and the Crane 3 Lab both use the 18650 cell type batteries. And while they're cheap and easy to replace, they are quite fiddly to install. So I think this category goes to the Ronin-S for its proprietary battery, which you can check the battery level on and is easy to install onto the gimbal with a latch system. In terms of battery life, the Moza Air 2 comes in on top at 16 hours of runtime. The Crane 3 Lab comes in last at 7.5 hours, and the Ronin-S comes in at second with 12 hours of runtime. In terms of payload capacity, the Ronin-S comes in last at 3.6 kilograms, the Moza Air 2 comes in second at 4.2 kilograms, and the Crane 3 comes in first at 4.54 kilograms. So the Crane 3 takes this category. Next is an important category, and that's the gimbal controls. Each of the gimbals have a variety of buttons and triggers which let you change what mode you're in. But the Ronin-S uses an LED indicator system. So it's not the greatest because you have to memorize what mode each stands for that you've set it in the app. The Moza Air 2 has a fantastic menu system that you can control directly from the gimbal. You can change which axes are locked and in follow mode. You can change the speed of all the axes. You can change each individual speed and the dead point. You basically do not need the app if you're using the Moza Air 2 gimbal, which is really nice. The Crane 3 Lab is a bit in between. It's easy to see what mode you're in by clicking one of the buttons, but you can't change all the settings straight from the gimbal like you can in the Moza. So the Moza Air 2 wins this category. For the gimbal balancing category, the Crane 3 Lab dominates the other two. This is because you can lock each axis individually, which makes balancing super easy, and I was able to balance it in 58 seconds. In second place is the Moza Air 2. It at least allows you to lock the roll axis, which speeds up the process a little faster, and I was able to balance it in 1 minute and 25 seconds. In last place is the Ronin-S. Because you can't lock any of the axes, it makes it very fiddly and way more difficult than the other two to balance. The difference is quite marginal, as it took 1 minute and 58 seconds to balance the Ronin-S. But if you have to balance them multiple times in a shoot, it can add up quite fast. The Crane 3 Lab also takes the next category for portability, and this is also because of the 3 locking axes. It just makes it so much easier to carry around on a shoot, so it doesn't swing around everywhere while you're walking. Also, the unique design has the center of gravity of the gimbal right underneath where you hold it, so it's a lot more comfortable. The Moza Air 2 is a little better for this than the Ronin-S because you can lock the roll axis, so at least it doesn't swing around as much. And something that people probably care the most about is the price. The Moza Air 2 is the cheapest, retailing for $599. The Ronin-S comes in at second, retailing for $749. And the Crane 3 Lab is the most expensive, retailing for $899. We decided to try out all the gimbals in a variety of shooting modes and ways you would use the gimbals. And the first one we did is vortex mode, where the gimbal continuously spins 360 degrees around the roll axis. And they actually all did really well for this, and the results all look very similar. But the one that made this the easiest to do was the Crane 3 Lab because of that unique design. So this category goes to the Crane. Next, we tried out some high-speed running. And all the gimbals were pretty much equal for this. There was a bit of micro jitter in all of the gimbals footage, which you can expect when you're running at a high speed. So for this category, it's a tie. We also try to shoot a hyperlapse on each of the gimbals, just by putting them in 3-axis lock mode and then walking straight down the Sea Point Promenade. And the shutter speed was set at 0.5 seconds to get a nice smooth motion blur. And the Ronin-S actually came out on top in this category by having the smoothest footage with the least drift. The Moza Air 2 was a bit shaky and didn't look that great. The Crane 3 Lab looked very smooth, but it drifted the most out of all 3 gimbals. So for this category, the Ronin-S takes the win. The next film mode we tried out is the low mode or underslung mode. And for this, they actually all performed pretty well. And they're generally pretty easy to put into the underslung mode, but because of the crane's design, it makes it by far the easiest one to put into the underslung mode. And also for this reason, it makes it a lot more comfortable to hold when in this mode, and allows you to get a little bit of a smoother shot. But otherwise, they all performed pretty similarly, but the winner for this category is the Crane 3. Sport mode or Go mode is also a pretty important film mode that a lot of people will use. And for this one, we just filmed a skateboarder riding past at a high speed, so we did a really quick whip pan. And the Moza Air 2 was pretty good in this, but not great, because it started drifting very fast in this mode. It also only really worked in the pan axis. The Crane 3 Lab is pretty good in this mode, and performed pretty well, but by far the best one for sport mode is the Ronin-S. Just feels a lot more responsive and quick to act, so if you want sport mode, then the Ronin-S is the way to go. Next, we tried out the app by setting up a motion time lapse, which all of these gimbals are able to do. It's a really cool feature where you can choose a start point, an end point, and even middle points, and the camera will track between them and you can get a really dynamic and creative time lapse. So the Ronin-S app is definitely the best and the easiest to use. It connects the fastest, it's the most user-friendly, it seems to be the most stable. So the Ronin-S app definitely wins. The Moza Air 2 app is not far behind, but it's just not as sleek as the Ronin-S. And the Crane 3 Labs app is probably the worst, just because it is a little buggy when you connect to it. It doesn't connect as fast as the other 2 apps. It also doesn't seem as well laid out as the other 2. The actual time lapse, just like the hyperlapse category, the Ronin-S takes the win. It's just a little bit smoother than the other 2 and it looks the best. Second place again is the Crane 3 Lab, and in third place with the least smooth time lapse is the Moza Air 2. The last shot we tried out is the orbital shot, where you move in a circle really fast around your subject and keep them in the center frame with a pretty tight lens. And all the gimbals actually performed really well in this category, and there was no clear winner. In conclusion, all 3 of these gimbals are actually really good gimbals, and they all have their things about them that are better than the others. So you'll just have to pick one that suits your needs best. But in terms of the categories we chose, the Crane 3 Lab and the DJI Ronin-S tied for first place, each winning 5 categories. And the Moza Air 2 is a close second, winning 4 categories. If you don't already know, Skillshare is an online learning platform with more than 25,000 courses in basically everything you can imagine. And at only $10 a month, you can join over 7 million creators and have access to an unlimited amount of these videos. I particularly find the huge amount of courses available on things like studio lighting, video editing, and animation to be the most helpful for myself. Each course has a series of lessons which cover everything you might want to know about the topic. If you use the link in the description, you can try 2 months of Skillshare for free and cancel anytime you want with no commitments. Thanks for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it or found it helpful, then please drop a like below. And if you'd like to see more like this in the future, then please subscribe.